What's the relationship with Buddhism and mindfulness and regulating your emotions? What's the connection with that? There's a lot, but
the important connection is developing a sense of the observer, so that instead of being in I, me, and my, you can observe I, me, and my doing its thing. That's all the mindfulness techniques are oriented toward, or do that. They create the capability, cultivate the ability in the individual to observe. So if you get into a conflict situation, instead of I am angry, where you've identified as anger, you can say, well, I can kind of feel that anger flowing up. And that's, then the anger is kind of it's not a separate thing, but it's just one of the many aspects of experience.
Yes.
Only if you sit quietly and observe can you really develop that ability. And the normal thing to do is just I am, to identify with. Identification, like you were talking about us and them, is a big part of the problem. That we are actually truly interwoven with everything and everyone. So it's all us. There's no them.
Yep.
The chair, the table, the person. It's all us.
Yeah. Wow.
We're the universe. And seeing that is challenging. Your question does say, how do you start? How do you encourage someone to notice that would be a pleasant way to live? Well, at some point you get so sick of the poison of hatred that you give it up. And there are a lot of ancient stories, but there are also recent examples of folks, getting out of gangs in LA. They just got to the point where, even though they had been tricked by their life experience to see the world in an upside down way, they pretty much knew it was upside down. And it's totally messed up to steal people's stuff all the time or harm people, or the conscience is a part of our consciousness. Our consciousness isn't limited to just us. It's interwoven and intertwined with all consciousness. At first, it doesn't seem like that. It seems like I'm a completely autonomous little robot walking around in my little bag of mostly water. But that isn't really true. Everything we are and everything we do and everything we think and everything we say, everything is interwoven. You can't take one piece out. If we took one piece out of the whole universe, it wouldn't exist. It's everything.
It is all. It is thus, right? That's the phrase. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And this is why I love the focus of language and psychology and the relationship with mindfulness and having this almost dissociative experience to the thoughts, right?
They're just thoughts.
They're just thoughts.
You can just watch them.
Yeah.
Just watch them go by. You don't have to be inside them, and if it's a thought about breaking somebody's window because they're bad, you can just watch the thought and accept it. I mean, sometimes we have awkward thoughts. They're just thoughts. It's okay. That's different from, well, and then you touched on it, if we try to control them really at all, but too much, the energy of trying to control them is used kind of against us. So you end up just being all pent up and angry in another weird way.
Yeah. I don't know, have you ever heard the psychologist, he's about to become an emeritus professor at UNR, Dr. Stephen Hayes?
Remind me of his work.
So, as a young psychologist, he was a part of the hippie movement. And a lot of his work has kind of carried with that. But he has developed a new theory of human language and consciousness and human language, and applied it to a theory of therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy. And the biggest thing, there's multiple things with it, but one of the key stones is this idea you're talking with about almost letting it go, seeing it, letting it go, observing it. And it's very amazing work. He makes the argument of how this is all a language shift that's going on with when you're able to be calm and meditate and see the emotions and all. Even, and this is really interesting, from his younger days in, the hippie town, California area.
Sure, right.
Right.
Haight-Ashbury or whatever.
Yeah, it's a lot of the ideas from a psychedelic experience are, or at least some ways of priming someone to go into a psychedelic experience of give up, your control, realize that stuff is going to come in, you just observe it, let it happen. It's very similar stuff to I'm not going to say Buddhism as a whole, no, but mindfulness and meditation almost. How would you, I don't know if you've ever, or would want to say if you've ever taken any kind of psychedelics or not, but.
No, not at all. And specifically because of those hippies. When I grew up, I was a little kid in Berkeley in like 1968. So
Okay.
I could tell you hippie stories to make your hair stand on end. Mostly about not washing and things like that. But the Buddhist point of view is that foreign substances and the body, they're not going to give you insight. They're just going to scramble the way your mind and brain work. But the idea of letting go of whatever it may be, the expectation, the fear, you can one thing's attraction and repulsion. You can let go of both of those things. That is the fundamental Buddhist path to a joyful life. That how could when people say, well, that's crazy, how could you go to a football game and not root for anybody? Well, I mean, you literally can go to a football game and root for everybody. You can see the patterns, and if they're well executed, you can cheer, and if somebody's kind of breaking the rules, that's not good, and you don't cheer. But if everybody's cooperating to play the game together, and it's a game of conflict, but it has clear rules, and they're just and reasonable, and there's a truth there. If the ball moves, then it's real. If the ball doesn't move, it's not real. We create games because they're simplifications of real life, and though sometimes they can be used for the opposite purpose, and make us like the Olympics or something. Well, the wonderful idea, the spirit of achievement in sport of the individual is a fundamental Olympic principle. But somehow it gets into this political thing where they're bad and we're good, and they cheat all the time and we're good. We invented cheating. So to say that the Russians are bad because they're doping is just silly. We invented it. We literally figured out how to do it. And Lance Armstrong was a hero until he wasn't.